Hello, and welcome back. This is Mystery Redacted, aka Red, and this piece I have called Beware What Lurks Below. It was actually inspired by Subnautica, because I do enjoy that game, though I don't have it personally. I watch my favourite YouTubers get freaked out by the Leviathan. So, what I thought I'd talk about today is a Pacific club I was part of for about 3 years. And it will probably come as a surprise to no one to know that I was a theatre kid. Yep, I was one of those weird theatre kids. I did it for about 3 years. It was an extracurricular activity, which meant that I was scored and I had a performance at the end of the year and for Christmas. It was quite fun actually, especially since the school was partnered with a professional theatre, which meant that at the end of the year, we actually got to go on a professional stage with professional lights and music and all that. So it was a fun experience. We also saw a lot of theatre shows that later on in the year we had to analyse as if we knew what the hell we was talking about. And this is actually where I found a weird, I'd guess, discomfort of mine. I find it incredibly weird, but apparently contemporary dance rubs me the wrong way. For me, it's like the exact sensation of someone just constantly scratching a chalkboard, constantly, because it sets me the wrong way. I feel nauseous. I don't know why, because it's just people being weird and being crabs, but contemporary dance, I avoided it for as long as possible after the first time I saw it. But yeah, as a theatre kid, you saw a lot of weird stuff, especially with shows, because some of them was very hilarious, like the one with contemporary dancing. That was a very weird show. No one knew what the hell was going on. But that was, I guess, the gimmick of the show. I don't like that gimmick. Just like, oh, you just have no idea what's going on. Ooh. It's like, yeah, I can do that. I can just spout random phrases and then no one will know what's going on. But yeah, it was a very weird show. And the thing is, the first thing that comes out of you of that weird show is just people completely naked. And I mean everything out, everything. Which would be alright if the front row didn't have like preschoolers. And I mean people younger than like 5. There was like 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds, 7-year-olds at the front row, so they had the front row view of naked people. It was very funny to actually watch them. They were more entertaining than the actual show, because you saw some of them, of course, being like, what the hell? But there was some that would hide their eyes, like they were seeing something indecent. They were probably taught that, but they just hid their faces, and that was not the show for them. But yeah, you went to a lot of shows, you did a lot of theatre things, repeating lines and such. One of the weird things is that I used to get a lot of lines, and the thing is, I live in France, so I was the only English student in the theatre group with an English accent when she spoke French. And for some very odd reason, from time to time, she used to give me like lines that were written in Old French, and like already for me pronouncing Old English is hard. Does thou window breaketh wind or whatever. So you can imagine in Old French I had a very, very difficult time. I even had to get her to record my lines so that I could listen to her repeatedly say stuff and then repeat it myself and it would still come out with an English accent. Apparently at the last year, they just thought I was putting on an English accent for comedic value, where I literally couldn't do any other accent. But yeah, it's a lot of fun times. There was a lot of like exercises and stuff that we got to do. We got to do like deep breathing, vocal exercises and all that. It was very fun. But I remember one of these exercises because, well, I took it to the extreme, because I always do. It was one with masks. Pretty much a professional came in. He came in every now and again. He was very fun and very nice. And what he did was that he got all these masks. There was like an old man, there was like a servant, there was like one with rosy cheeks, you know, for comedy. So you have to be very characteristic, not characteristic, caricatures of these characters. And well, we had to do this scene, me and this other guy. I will call him Stanley. I have a box that has a mark that's Stanley, so he'll be Stanley from now on. So me and Stanley had to do this routine, this exercise. I was the old man. I had the mask on. I was an old man. I was in bathrobes and a little one of those, you know, sleeping hats that they had in the olden days, and a bag with quote-unquote money in it. And he was a rosy-cheeked servant that was meant to trick me. So pretty much I had to pretend to fall asleep, which, like I said, it wasn't actually... What most people believe with theatre is that you're not meant to be you're meant to be believable. But it depends what one you're doing. If you're doing like a tragedy and all that, yeah, you're meant to be believable. But if you're doing a comedy, then no, you're meant to be a caricature of everything. So of course I went with snoring noises, which were great, you know, like that. And he went around, stole the pocket money, and then he told me the terrible truth that my money was gone. Now, you see, the only line I could say, I was only allowed to say one line, which is, "Where's my money?" So, of course, I do it in an old man's voice. I also had a cane. I had to hobble around on the cane. And so, Stanley started gesturing me to the door outside of the theatre classroom. Because you see, this whole thing, we didn't have a separate building or anything. It was just a little classroom that led out into the big hall. So there I am, in my old man voice, shouting, "Where's my money?" And he leads me to the door. Now, I had a split-second decision to make, and honestly, I think I went with the right one. Pretty much, he opened the door, and what he probably expected me to do was to stop it there and just be like, "Hey, this is fun. I like doing this." No, that isn't what I did. I hobbled out and shouted, "Where's my money?" So you can imagine everyone dead in the classroom because they're laughing so hard that I actually did this, and me horrified because I just realised that there's a bench in front of the classroom, and there was a boy and a girl currently making out on it. And then they turned around to me, seeing me in a bathrobe, a mask with an old man's face on it, a little bonnet, and a cane, shouting, "Where's my money?" Yep, they probably thought that the theatre kids were absolutely mad, that they should be sent to asylum. And honestly, I don't disagree with them. We were kind of mad. But yeah, of course I went back in, and everyone still couldn't believe that I actually did that. So yeah, it was a lot of fun doing theatre. But if you're looking to do theatre, let me just say, it doesn't matter if your memory's great, because if you just record your lines and then listen to it over and over again, it's not that hard to keep up with it and remember it, because at one point it just becomes kind of in you, and you can just blurb it out whenever. You just have to repeat it a lot. But theatre is not for the faint of heart. Let's put it that way. Pretty much you do rely heavily on improvising. Improvising is one of the most important things. Like, for example, we were doing a performance and someone had forgotten to put my broom out onto the stage. So I went out and realised there's no broom, so I can't do my sweeping that I was meant to be doing. So instead, what I did was that I took a tissue and started cleaning the floor like that. Because, well, like I said, you can't just say, hey, there's no broom here. You just have to improvise and do what you're meant to do. Like another time, someone forgot to put my desk with the typewriter out, which meant I had nothing to do. So instead of doing what I was meant to do, I just pulled my phone out of my pocket, because I had it on me, and tried to act like I was just receiving a call and chatting into it. So yeah, that was kind of weird. Also, in that same performance, they forgot it a second time, and I had to sit down on the bench, but they placed the bench incorrectly, so it slid off the stage and slammed. And there was just a moment of each of us like blanking because of the noise and then continuing. That was actually one of the hardest plays I did, that one. Not because of all the accidents that happened with the second performance. It was because I had to learn to keep a straight face while wearing a nun costume. I don't know if you've ever worn a full nun costume and tried to sprout lines in it. It's very hard to keep a straight face, especially when I was the superior mother. Yeah, I was the superior mother, and so I had to be very strict and be like, what are you doing here, madame? And it's like, try sprouting lines in a nun outfit while talking like that. You'll find it very hard as well. Also, you learned how to dress very quickly in theatre. Like, at the end of it, you're like Speedy Gonzales, because honestly, you have to do it quickly. You have to do costume changes quickly. Sometimes you have someone to help you out, and other times you don't. Other times you just have to kind of go with it. And you also have to place the costumes where they are, because if not, there's panic backstage. Pretty much if you've ever seen a theatre performance or anything like that, then even with like Hamilton, I suspect it's the same thing. Pretty much while people are on the stage, yeah, doing their lines and all that, everyone backstage is either listening intently to know when their line is or when they have to go in, or they're panicking because they can't find something. That's what it is. Backstage, we keep our panic silent, but it's absolute mayhem back there. For us, because we had a teacher that was kind of the director, for us it was pretty much, there was the teacher trying to keep on the lines and all that. There was some people reading their lines again, just to make sure they remember it. And then there was the people that had to go on next that were panicking because either they needed to put something into the stage, they needed to arrange something and they couldn't find the thing, or there was someone that had to go into a different costume that couldn't find their costume. But anyway, that's it for now. It was a fun time. Anyway, ta-ta!